Hello and welcome back to Cars and Coffee. It's actually the penultimate car show of the year, at least for Cars and Coffee at M1. They only go until October. And this was supposed to be sort of like a vintage pre-war theme, but that didn't happen. No, this was much more varied with lots of interesting, unique, and very rare vehicles. But let's start out with the Japanese. Now, I've never been the biggest fan of the Japanese cars that show up because they're always the same. I love the Alizé Z1, even though we've seen it probably a dozen times. Still great with the gull-wing doors. Multiple generations of RX-7. I really like the FA part next to the FC. Gives a good context and evolution of the brand. There was also another X5 with an RX-7 wing. Just thought that was kind of interesting. It actually didn't look terrible. But Honda really had a pretty darn good show, with lots of 5th Gen Civics, including that right-hand drive one you just saw, we had an S2000, and a fair few NSXs. The old ones, not the new ones. I mean, there was a new one too, but the old ones were really good, especially the silver dark gray on this NSXT. I think it looks fantastic. Toyota also had plenty. Usual things like the A80 Supra, the A90 Supra, the MR2, more common ones at a show like this. But there were some oddballs, and you know me, I love an oddball car, like the Toyota Crown from the 80s. I think that's, then there was the Land Cruiser, also from the 80s. And this is an iconic sign, I love it, it's very Land Rover-esque. This is the other end of the spectrum, it's the Suzuki X90. It's not very good looking, but I kind of appreciate it. So we're going to move from the roundness of the 90s back to the boxiness of the 80s for a second with Volkswagen. There was a Beetle with a front splitter and 911 decals. I don't think it's very fast based on the engine, but I gotta admire the hustle of putting a spoiler, or sorry, a splitter on your Beetle. There you go. A few Audis, RS6s, RS4s, the Avant as well, so the RS6 sedan and the RS6 Avant. This is not an M3 lightweight, despite what I initially thought. It's painted like an M3 lightweight, but I don't think it is. M3 lightweights are very rare, and they have wings on the back, so while it looks like the famous lightweights, I don't think it is one. Still cool, though. These are much more interesting. The Grid Life Time Attack BMWs, 135 and M3, that show just how much wing can be done. Mercedes showed up with both the SLS AMG with gull wing and a C63 AMG Black Edition. Looks really mean, really impressive. I haven't seen one of these in a very long time. I love the look of the C63 Black. Although Porsche does win the German category, not just because they had a 930 turbo, but also because they had a 550 Spider. I highly doubt it's one of the 99 originals built, because those are about $5 million a piece, and it wouldn't just be casually driving down the road. But still, I love the look. We don't see them very often. Moving on to the British, we have a few McLarens, a few Lotai, but I mean, the modern sports cars never really do it much for me on the British aspect, which is why I really like the classics. So you got the old British roadsters, like the Jaguar, like the MG MGA, very nice in white, by the way. I haven't seen one in white. Looks really good. And the Jaguar SS100 is also more vintage, as the theme was supposed to be. But we're going to move on to the Italians. The British were not as present as other times in the past. So you got your Alfa Romeos like the 4C, and the far better looking, don't at me, Alfa Spider, especially in this blue with the bumper delete. Looks fantastic, the Alfa Spider. And yeah, we actually had a pretty good presence. Normally the Italians are the ones lacking, but this time it's the other way around. The British lacked, and the Italians stepped it up with the Gallardo Superleggera, with the Ferrari Roma, and the far better looking GT4C Lusso. I don't really like the Roma. It's very Aston Martin-esque, but sort of not. I much prefer the 430 Scuderia, especially in yellow. I know red looks great too, but the yellow really strikes me on that one. It's very in your face. But we do still have a classic red Ferrari. I mean, that's sort of required with the 246 Dino GT. And this, it's a Dallara EXP. It's based off of the Dallara Stradale road car, but it's way more intense. It's like 1,200 kilograms, 500 horsepower from the engine from my Mustang, and oh yeah, it pulls 2.7G in the corners. It's not road legal at all. It's probably my favorite car in the show, to be honest. I've never seen one before. I've never seen a Dallara before. I didn't even know they're in the United States outside of IndyCar. But there you go. And we do actually have a few race cars from the Americas. Moving on to the Americans with the Formula SCCA and the Nash Roadster from 1927. It's for like dirt racing. It's got the handbrake lever on the left. It's got a freaking turn crank to turn the car over on the front. And yeah, there's some other ones like the Devon Special Roadster that we've seen at the American Speed Festival. Absolutely brutal noise from that engine. I think it's an Offenhauser engine, to be precise. And for more road-going vehicles, you got the Shelby 427 and a Parnelli Jones signed 1974 Mustang Boss 302. Plymouth also had a very good show with the second-gen Barracuda and the Belvedere from 1964. And, well, a very special vehicle, not the Duster 340, that is nice. No, I'm talking about this, a 1967 GTX convertible. Pretty normal, except for the fact that it's got a Hemi 426. And in 1967, only 7 models of that convertible GTX rolled off the line with a 426 Hemi. Yeah, one of 7 in the world. Now this is not one of 122 Ferrari Daytona convertibles. It is a C3 Corvette, hence why it is here. Although I gotta say, respect to the hustle. It fooled me for a good half a second or two until I saw the 3-speed gearbox on the shifter. So, well played there. More normal Chevrolets, if you will. The El Camino 350, the Chevelle SS 454. Absolute beast of multiplier. I think it's still the biggest engine ever put into a Chevy. Not really sure on that, though. This has a bigger turbo, though. That is for sure. The Dragster Z28 Camaro from 1971. And the 50th anniversary Chevy Camaro. I think this is also a dragster based on the rear tires, but I'm not really sure. Moving on to Dodge, we have the A100 van, very obviously modified with the side pipes on the back. And we also have a Dodge Demon in brilliant green. Dodge always has the best colors every single time. The green is just so vibrant. Same thing with the black and red combination on the Challenger, or the Coronet Super Bee. Yeah. And of course, you know, Vipers aplenty, most notably the last generation ACR. It's had the last Viper ever made, and we'll probably never see it again. Now this is time for more oddballs, like the Buick GSX convertible. They never made a convertible GSX, so that's a custom build, which is kind of cool. And then we got, again, the more odd manufacturers that did not get as much today, like Cadillac's ETSV Estate, or the Eagle Talon TSI Turbo, severely underrated car, that one. Same thing with the AMC, I think it's Sprint, maybe Spirit, 360 V8 powered hatchback, basically. Love the paint job, too. Also like the paint job on the GMC Typhoon. I've never seen a Typhoon in red, but I kind of like it. I always see him in silver or black, like this modern-day interpretation of the Cyclone. And I think red works pretty well. Now, this actually is a pre-war vintage vehicle in the form of the Hudson Terraplane. Had to Google what the hell that was, but it's always nice to see a new vehicle. Speaking of new vehicles, the Studebaker Golden Ray, I think is the name, in fitting gold colors. I think it looks fantastic. I wish the hood wasn't out so you could see the lines better. But yeah, the fins and the white walls, perfection. Not quite as perfect, but always good to see a Merc or Scorpio, sort of America's version of the Sierra. But apart from the Dallara, my favorite car in show was the Panoz Roadster. Think of it as the version of the Plymouth Prowler that's actually fast and good. And again, I always love seeing cars you don't see very often, made less than 300 Panoz Roadsters. So a very large collection of rare vehicles. While the actual sheer number of vehicles, so it's less this time around, probably because it's getting colder and the weather's getting worse, but the quality definitely outpaced the quantity.